Joe Quijano, the singer, composer, musician, and bandleader known as the King of La Pachanga, passed away on April 4th, 2019, at the age of 83 in Puerto Rico, where he was born. This is a tribute to my friend Joe.
Hay una discusión en el barrio de cómo se baila la pachanga. Hay una confusión en el barrio. Esta orquesta no es charanga, toque ritmo de pachanga, nene. Esta orquesta no es charanga, toque ritmo de pachanga, nene. Mira cómo se viene esa mulaca, chico. ¡Que vaya! Con José Quijano, baile la pachanga y no la confundan con una charanga. Con José Quijano, baile la pachanga y no la confundan con una charanga. Baile la pachanga y no la confundan con una charanga.
Joe Quijano. And Joe, let me tell you, I know you're in Puerto Rico by the beach, enjoying the wonderful, wonderful weather of that island. But I'm really very grateful that you're giving me an interview because you are an icon. You are a musical icon, and you're my friend. And it's been a long time that we haven't spoken, but I know whatever you have to say is important, it's entertaining, and a lot of the younger people that will be listening will get a lot out of it. But listen, you sent me the Tito Puente Roast DVD, and it's fascinating, and I'll read a little bit from it, and then you can go on. It says, the Tito Puente Roast presented by Joe Quijano. In 1979, I produced a live show for Tito Puente and his orchestra for the purpose of promoting him to a wider television audience. We came up with the idea of starting a Tito Puente Scholarship Fund and incorporating it into the Tito Puente Roast. That was a big, big deal, Joe, then, and it still is, because I know you made Tito happy, and you made a lot of students, a lot of talented young people happier. How are you? Tell me about that, please.
I'm doing well, Gilda. I'm so glad to, after all these years, speak to you again and see that we're still in this business of music. I really appreciate your calling, and as far as the Tito Puente Roast that I produced, it was something out of an idea of mine to do like a Dean Martin roast, which was very popular at the time.
Yeah.
And my having, since I was 15 years old, being a messenger for a photography company called Transus Corporation, we used to do rear background slides for TV, and I was the messenger. I used to deliver to your show or shows, Ed Sullivan shows, well, the gamut of all the stuff I was using rear background projections. And I gained a lot of knowledge, just by watching. Then years later, it became in handy because I was able to produce this show almost with my eyes closed, And then we did it. There's personalities there like Mita Silva, Bobby Capó.
All the greats. You had all the greats. Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. But let me tell you, before that, before going on to whoever was there, and by the way, is this DVD still available now?
Yeah,
could it be purchased?
This is available. There's a company in England It's called International Records, and that could be gotten through the internet, yes.
Okay. Also, I know a lot of your music is on the internet. It's on Amazon. It's all over. Because how many LPs did you record?
I did a total of about 25 LPs. I reduced them down to 15 CDs, and there's a total of almost 325 numbers. And
That's
then,
a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, I recorded with CBS back in the day, back in '60. I recorded with a company called Panoramic. Then I did some stuff for RCA, and which one? Oh, MGM. I did the Fiddler on the Roof score, Goes Latin, scored by Charles Fox.
You did also one on strings, right? There was strings you did.
Joe Quijano with strings, which Charles Fox also did. Charles Fox, by the way, is the composer of Killing Me Softly and Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Love Boat. He's a good friend of mine.
And also you had your own record company.
And then I wandered off with that knowledge to Cesta Records, which I named after my amateur days of playing highlight.
Let's go back, and it's interesting. I was reading your biography, and I know you're from the Bronx, but when I read that you were in around Southern Boulevard, Kelly Street, Simpson Street, that was my neighborhood. I was raised in the South Bronx, and it brought so many wonderful memories because you mentioned the Hunts Point Palace and the guys that used to play. You played there. Tell me a little bit about. I know you were born in Puerto Rico, like I was born in Puerto Rico, and your family came to New York. I know that. Tell me about you as a child, and then what happened with you.
Well, when I was 6 years old, my family and I, that was 1941, we migrated to the Bronx. Again, you know, in those days, you used to go to the furnish room. The furnish room, it was the rooms that your relatives used to rent you to bring you over. And that was at 16 Simpson Street. I never forget that. And I went to PS20. That was on Simpson at 167th Street. Across the street from Fort Apache, famous Fort Apache police station. And then there, I went to, from there, I went to PS52. That was on Longwood Avenue and Kelly Street. And then from there, I went to High School of Industrial Arts, where I wanted to be a commercial artist. And then by that time, the music grabbed me with my good friends Orlando Marin and Charlie Palmieri and those.
They were your buddies around the block, correct?
Right. We used to play stickball together.
I remember. Stickball, and that's what we. Now, how did you start playing?
You know what happened was that my cousin Carlos Cueva on Simpson used to play piano, and then I used to I got the bug, and my parents bought me a piano, and I went to study piano with Edwige Bocanegra and Maria Elisa Lecomte. Maria Elisa Lecomte was the mother of Luis Barona, which was one of the first pioneer piano players of what they call today salsa music, which is Latin music, with Machito was the band he used to play with. And I got the bug, you know, from watching him and stuff. But then I did about 3 years of studying, and I ventured off to doing vocals on the subway station of Hunts Point and going to Orchard Beach. And they started throwing nickels and dimes at me, so I made a pair of bongos with a couple of latas of juice, and I used to and drive people crazy, and that stayed with me till I became a pro.
Then you got together with Orlando Marin and Charlie Palmieri and organized a group. Is that the way it was? No?
Yes, Orlando was the leader. Orlando's still alive. He's still gigging, you know. And he's a very nice person.
He's a nice person. I like him very much.
Yeah.
And how did you get together with the guys to finally get a group performing?
Well, the thing was that we used to go to PS 52. And in 52 at lunchtime, we would go downstairs. There was a piano. And we would rehearse there. And we knew one song, El Cumbanchero. And,
the Rafael Hernandez. Yes. Okay.
Right. And then we graduated and we did Abanaquito by Tito Puente, and then we did La Toalla that Tito Rodriguez was. As I said in our conversation so far, I have mentioned Machito, Puente, and Rodriguez. And
yes.
Those were the people we used to look up to, because those were the bands that were happening at the time.
Yes. And you practiced, and then you got your first job? What was it?
Yeah, first gig we played was at Huntsville Palace, and it happened by this time that the piano player was the leader, and he paid us 35 cents for the gig. I'll never forget. But 35 cents back in 1948 was like $1, you know.
Oh yes, of course. How big was your group? How many guys? And
we had five guys, and we didn't use a bass player because we didn't know, where to hire a bass player. And imagine a rhythm section without a bass. It just doesn't, round out the sound. And we had Elmo Garcia band opposite us, and the bass player sat in with us, and that's the way we passed the night, playing 3 gigs for 2 sets.
And then what happened with the group? What was the next big step?
Well, from there, Charlie went with Johnny Segui. Orlando went to the Army, and then I was left with the Conjunto, which at the very beginning I just called the Quijano Orquesta. And then I thought of a name, La Sonora Matancera was my idols, and Orquesta Aragón. And I decided to call my
and then for our audience, you have to say they're from Cuba. They were top Cuban.
Oh yeah, they were from Cuba. We was one of the best bands, Aragón, which is perfection. If you listen to Aragón, you're going to hear and La Sonora, of course, which Rogelio, may rest in peace.
What I want to know is, when does it become Conjunto Cachana?
Okay, that's where I was going. My grandfather in Puerto Rico was the people that load and unload ships in Old San Juan.
I saw you were from Puerto de Tierra, where the harbors, where the piers were, the ship.
Right, that's where I was born. I was born in top 5. So then my grandfather, by love of him, by his fellow workers, instead of calling Quijano, they would call him Cachana.
Oh,
a nickname. As a nickname then, and loving nickname, like you're my brother kind of thing. And when I made my conjunto, I decided then, like Matancera, I decided to call it El Conjunto Cachana.
Oh, that was good. That was a good inspiration.
Yeah,
it's very catchy, very catchy.
It was different,
It was different. And when does the Conjunto Cachana make its debut professionally with all the
1957.
Where?
In 56, I went to Cuba, and I picked up a lot of music which I brought back.
Yes.
From Cuba, una conga, quinto conga, from La Familia Vergara in La Habana, La Maria. I brought back a pair of maracas socata, which I don't know if you ever heard of those.
No,
those are maracas that are sunken in, and the weed are sunken in, and that is made for the sound. It seems that back in the day, maraca singers used to play maracas in front of the microphone, and they found that the chicky of the maraca was too piercing.
Yes.
So one they decided to take the huira, and sunk it in and put in pieces of rubber. So the maraca player would look like he was playing maracas, of course. It would make a little sound, but the sound was muffed. So like that, it wouldn't cut into the microphone.
That was brilliant.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have still here in Puerto Rico, Gilberto Santa Rosa is asking me to get him a pair. For that, I would
listen,
have to go to Cuba.
you brought that idea and the instrument from Cuba and used it with your group, correct?
Oh yeah, but Tito Rodriguez used to use it, Machito used to use it, and that was the solution to the treble sound of what Mika.
Because you wanted to give it a certain sound. You needed a certain sound to identify your group. Is that correct?
Yes. Here's what I did. Since I was fan of Matancera and Aragon, I combined the two trumpets, the flute of Aragon, the rhythm section playing like charanga, which is, a charanga is the violin band with that came out of chamber music. And then they incorporated that sound and three singers singing in unison, and that gave me the sound of the Conjunto Cachana. Here's what happened. When La Charanga Aragon came to New York in 1958, there was a dancer, a singer mostly. His name was Bacallao. Bacallao, up in front, and I was there the day they were presented at the Palladium, used to do a step which was very similar to, if you remember old movies of the Indians dancing around the campfire. The powwow. Yeah. Okay, and he had a step similar to that. And then at the same time, it was like a Charleston. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that.
So a combination of those two things, Bacallao used to do a series of steps. And there was a flute player I was playing on that night. He had a band, Johnny Pacheco. And Johnny copied the step, or mimicked the step, brought it to the Bronx, and at the Tritons in the Bronx, which is on Bruckner Boulevard and next to the Spooner Theater.
It was a club, wasn't it? It was a club.
Right up, it was a club, the Tritons. Yeah. And he started playing with his charanga there, which was, as I said, a combination of chamber music instruments. And it just happens that Eduardo Davis in 1959 had written a song called La Pachanga.
Yes.
Now, that name was applied to the dance, and people were, confusing it. Even Tito Rodriguez recorded saying that the dance was, a charanga. No. The charanga was the name of the band, and the pachanga was the name of the hit that Eduardo Davis had.
Please explain, because most people get confused between la charanga and the pachanga. Please explain that to my audience.
Okay. La charanga in French, the word is charangue, G-U-E. And it came from chamber music of the bands that used to play Mozart and all those great composers of the time. But it was a combination, usually, of two violins, the least, two violins, a harpsichord, bass, and of course, no rhythm.
Eduardo Davidson was the composer of La Pachanga. Who was the one that started to play La Charanga? Johnny Pacheco or Charlie Palmieri? Who was it?
Both at the same time, really. It was Johnny was a flute player with Charlie's band. And,
I got it. Okay.
Yeah, and then Johnny was approached by Al Santiago, which had Alegre Records in the Bronx. He was on Westchester and Longwood Avenue, and made the recording of El Guido de Macorina.
Oh yes, which is a big hit.
It was a huge hit, and people started singing the step that Pacheco was promoting, which was from Orquesta Aragon, of course, as I said before. And then Charlie made his Orquesta Dubonnet, which was a charanga.
Well, what was happening with you with the pachanga?
Well, I got lucky. I used to work back then for Good One Stop, which was a supplier of wholesale records to the industry, all the record stores and the jukeboxes. Yes. And I used to handle the Latin department. It was on 9th Avenue and 56th Street. And I had the Conjunto already working at a place called Spring Rock Country Club. That was in Spring Valley, New York. And I got the idea to run over to CBS, which was Columbia Records, on 7th Avenue and 52nd Street.
Mm-hmm.
There, I met a wonderful person. His name was Ernie Hodschroeder, which at the same time he was producing Johnny Mathis and Tony Bennett.
Mm.
And here I am, on my lunch hour, sitting between Tony Bennett and Johnny Mathis.
Oh, God.
And they liked me, and we started talking, and Tony started mentioning Bossa Nova, which was coming in at the time. We're talking 1960, 61. And then Ernie went up to Spring Rock Country Club, saw the people dancing Pachanga, and they were mostly Jewish people at the country club, and the Palladium crowd was mostly American, Jewish, Italian, Irish, German. I mean, there's one good thing about the Palladium where people mingled a lot,
Yes.
And Puerto Ricans and Cubans, of course. And then I was a big hit with Ernie, and he said, "Come on Monday to the that was a Saturday. Come on Monday to the office, and I'll sign you." What? Hey, and on top of that, he gave me $1,000.
Wonderful. And that's in those days, that was a lot of money. A lot of money.
That was a lot of money, and I signed with CBS, with Columbia Records. And the only band that had signed with Columbia and was big at the time was Xavier Cugat.
What year was it? What year?
My signing with Columbia was 60, 61.
And you started to record what? Pachanga?
Well, La Pachanga, yeah, of course. La Pachanga Se Baila Así was written by me, arranged by Charlie Palmieri, and Bobby Valentin, which was a trumpet player with my group at the time, first trumpet. And I wrote Ya Llegó La Pachanga. I made a complete album, one side of Pachangas, and the other side had danzons, boleros, and the usual Latin songs.
And that was a breakthrough for you. It became such a big hit.
Oh, yeah. I got lucky again, where the merchandising director was a friend of mine, was still my good buddy, Mr. Howard Smith, for CBS. And he marketed the La Pachanga Se Baila Así LP all over the world. And that put me on the map, really.
Did you begin to travel then?
Yeah, well, as the more the promotion till today. La Pachanga Se Baila Así in Colombia is like a big number. It opens up mostly all the parties.
I know.
Yeah,
Now, then you started with La Pachanga Se Baila Así, and then you had, what happened with Cataño? That, which is one of my favorite songs.
I did that just before doing La Pachanga Se Baila Así. Where I had Paquito Guzmán was the singer, Willie Torres was the singer, and I, going back to describing my conjunto, as I said, three voices unison, gave me the sound of the conjunto. Aguanta la lancha que voy pa' Cataño was a big hit also.
Yes.
Yeah. But for a panoramic label.
It's another label, okay. But
Right.
you also do boleros and other genres.
Yes, I did. I started playing just regular Latin music, bolero, mambo, cha-cha-cha, and I copied a lot from mostly Orlando Vallejo, Ibeto Monroy, and then in Puerto Rico, Joe Valle. A lot of copying that I did at the time, just to make a repertoire. But my big deal was La Pachanga.
That is the biggest, right?
Yeah. At the label, Sister Records, I kept selling records on my label. But at that time, you sell the records to stores and stuff. Not today. Today, everything is internet, Yeah. You can't...
Now, you still feel that you can play, that you want to play? How active are you?
No, I retired in 2014 because I had an accident, a motorcycle accident, and that sidelined me, and it just being a rey de la pachanga. I, don't want to go on stage, cojeando, you know what I mean?
Of course.
I'm recently not producing much, but working mostly with my recordings. For example, there's a thing I did about 4 months ago where I released a CD version of How Do You Keep the Music Playing in Spanish, sung by a lady named Renska Ferrer. She was from Curaçao, yeah. And that is getting a little airplay here in Puerto Rico. But to get airplay lately, it's very difficult. So I've kind of stopped, the production. Well, I really want to thank you for this opportunity to talk to the people out there. I'm 82 years old now. I'll be 83 in September 27th. If people want to do the math, they'll know what year.
But you're a happy person. You've had a full life, Joe.
Oh, yeah. No, I really, it's living here. I'm looking forward to selling my place here in case anybody out there is looking for a beachfront. And also, I'm selling my label, Sessa Records, if anybody's interested.
Okay, they can get in touch with you through me. That's good. That sounds good.
Sure.
But listen, I want to thank you and tell you we will be speaking again because your life has so much, and you're a teacher. You're a teacher about music. You're a teacher about the way the genres have evolved, especially salsa. We got to have another show about the salsa history in New York. And just wish you the best. God bless you, Joe Quijano.